राम सूरत कुमार योगी राम सूरत कुमार योगी राम सूरत कुमार जय गुरु राया योगी राम सूरत कुमार योगी राम सूरत कुमार योगी राम सूरत कुमार जय गुरु राया योगी राम सूरत कुमार योगी राम सूरत कुमार योगी राम सूरत कुमार जय गुरु राया योगी राम सूरत कुमार योगी राम सूरत कुमार योगी राम सूरत कुमार जय गुरु राया योगी राम सूरत कुमार योगी राम सूरत कुमार योगी राम सूरत कुमार जय गुरु राया राम 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 योगी राम सूरत कुमार योगी राम सूरत कुमार योगी राम सूरत कुमार जय गुरु राया योगी राम सूरत कुमार योगी राम सूरत कुमार योगी राम सूरत कुमार जय गुरु राया योगी राम सूरत कुमार योगी राम सूरत कुमार योगी राम सूरत कुमार जय गुरु राया योगी राम सूरत कुमार योगी राम सूरत कुमार योगी राम सूरत कुमार जय गुरु राया राम 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 योगी राम सूरत कुमार योगी राम सूरत कुमार योगी राम सूरत कुमार जय गुरु राया योगी राम सूरत कुमार योगी राम सूरत कुमार योगी राम सूरत कुमार जय गुरु राया योगी राम सूरत कुमार योगी राम सूरत कुमार योगी राम सूरत कुमार जय गुरु Jaya Ram 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 Rama 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 Yogi Ram Surakuma Yogi Ram Surakuma Yogi Ram Surakuma Jaya Guru Raya Yogi Ram Surakuma Yogi Ram Surakuma Yogi Ram Surakuma Jaya Guru Raya Rama 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 Yogi Rama 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 भगवान श्री योगी राम सूरत कुमार की जय। सर्वं योगी राम सूरत कुमारार्पणमस्तु। We all know that it is no small grace that makes it possible for us to gather here and sing His powerful name day after day after day for the past 2.5 years without fail. And in celebration of this grace, with deep gratitude, we have offered the Nama lotuses at the lotus feet of Bhagavan, with a prayer that we should always be able to fill up the whole day with His Nama and Seva. Today we shall see one more aspect of sadhana. It is perseverance, no matter what. There would be ups and downs in life, and we go with the waves. And then we find it easier to move on. I remember way back in 1990, probably it was June, the middle of June, that Bhagavan took some of his devotees to Ramannagar. The nutrient chairman, Shri Dwaraknath Reddy's place. It's called Kripa. Bhagavan loved visiting there. He loved that garden, and often he frequented this place. So when we all went there, that was the time Bhagavan kept me at bay. In Sanadi Street house also, he would make me sit near the door and say, because I was going so often, there would have been a disturbance to his style of life and functioning. And yet, I could not help doing what I was doing. So he would always make me sit in a corner very near the door, so that any moment he would nod his head, I would be out. I was prepared. For me, his darshan was enough. Just to sit in his presence was much more than enough. If I could breathe the same air as he did, was enough and more. So I would be there, and one day, as he took us all to Shri Dwaraknath Reddy's place, in the garden, the beautiful garden, and Bhagavan was seated there, Shri Sadhuji Rangarajan had also come there with his group of people, and Bhagavan seated them all in such a way that he was surrounded by these people, and I got the last place behind all of them. I didn't mind, because I was used to it. It was enough for me that I could come with him to that place and spend as much time as he permitted. What more could one ask for? The Guru Seva. Guru Seva is also Guru Sangha. Guru Sangha is just being present, in his presence, in his huge presence. And now, Sandhya, Shri Dwaraknath Reddy's sister, daughter, my spiritual sister, she came there, and she was hosting all of us actually. preparing everything, every eatable for us. And she came and she saw, and then immediately she pleaded on my part, on my behalf, without my asking her. She said, Swami, please give Devaki a nearby seat. I was so scared because I would never ask him that, nor would I want anyone else to ask on my behalf. But then it happened, as it does many times in other circumstances as well. And then Bhagavan said, no, she could sit anywhere she likes. That sounded like a snub, but I knew better from my experience, and I was happy where I was. And Sandhya, she kind of exploded. She said, what injustice. Then Swami burst into hilarious laughter, peals of laughter, cascading for quite some time, and kept quiet. Now, as we were seated, there were many things that were being talked about there, at the end of which the topic came. Bhagavan said, when a sannyasi visits a home, he should be given the first preference. He should be handed over the whole house to deal with as he would want. Such is the honor, respect that we give to the sannyasis in the Hindu tradition. That is a great honor that a sannyasi should visit a place at all. And then Shri Dwarakanath Reddy said, Swami Chinmayananda had visited his house, and there again it was like that. They followed his dictates. So as this was going on, at the end of which I put forth, I said, Bhagavan, my holidays are coming to an end. Now there will soon be reopening of the college. I have to go from Tiruvannamalai to Salem, but I don't feel like it. I don't want to move away from Tiruvannamalai. And then I was pleading to permit me to resign my job and come, which I had done many times before, and every time he would assume a stern face and say, no, you have to go back. You have to do your duty. There is no need to come here. Then I would keep quiet. Now that day again, I expressed my reluctance to leave Tiruvannamalai. He said again, like before, no, you have to go back. And then he added this time, you see, this beggar is neither a sannyasi nor a householder. And then he quoted a saying from Hindi which says, I'm neither a dog of the village nor the lion, the king lion of a forest. And then he laughed again. And then he said, you see, you people see, this beggar doesn't want anybody to come and settle down in Tiruvannamalai, to become lazy like this beggar, to move in the streets, to wander in the streets like this beggar did. They would also become lazy. You see, this coconut shell, the begging bowl, I don't want them to be a beggar also, wandering in the streets. This beggar is very lazy. And then he laughed. He laughed and laughed amidst all this harshness. That's what I thought at that time. Anyway, I had to take it, so they left me. Now, why I am saying this, it was the middle of June. I was so reluctant to leave. I would like to say that life had been very fair to me. I had no complaints at all about my life. Everything was going so well. I loved teaching, and I loved the subject I was teaching, and I loved my students, and the college where I was working, which was more like an ashram. Everything about life was so good. And I had even ambitions to do my PhD, and I used to dream of the best laboratories of the world, like Cambridge, Berkeley, California, Harvard. And then Einstein was my hero, Heisenberg. And when I read this book, Double Helix, where there's a very elaborate description of how the scientists discovered the structure of DNA, I went ecstatic for a few days. The intellectual, I wouldn't say bliss, but intellectual pleasure is great. So you see, they were my interests. And of course, I had on the other side my own spiritual interests as well. But after I came to Bhagavan, one darshan of him, whatever I read in the literature of Sri Ramana Bhagavan, the very first meeting with him, it became an experience. People won't believe it if I tell them what I went through. Just one look from him. He just raised his hand in benediction, and here I was completely gone mad. Everything dropped. Everything that was familiar, everything that was comfortable, everything I had known until then, the thoughts, everything dropped out. And all that remained was that huge bliss and peace filling every pore of my being. Now, how could anyone have any other thought once they have this kind of experience? This is what happened to me. After that, it was madness all through. I could not keep myself away from him. He became the embodiment of that experience. Those 7 years I continued to work in the college was a hell to me, though of course I had absolutely no complaints about the work that was going on. Now that is another chapter. But I could not help coming to him so often, in spite of his rejecting me every time. But you see, just 3 years after, about the same time, everything changed. And what happened is history. In 93 November, he shifted to Sudama. And then he made me sit with him all the time. The one who would not give me any personal service, even the simplest ones. When I was going to Sanadi Street, I would be sitting and longing for it. And yet, he would not give me anything at all to do. He would give somebody on this side and somebody on the other side, but leave me, ignore me completely in the middle. But everything changed, and then I was given 24-hour service, personal service to him. Now why I mention this, in spiritual life, no matter what comes up or what goes down, this perseverance. Should have this goal in view all the time. Not move an inch this way or that way, no matter what happens. And everything in course of time will change. Life has a way of hitting us in unexpected, vulnerable moments, and yet each one of them is precious and carries a teaching lesson in its own way if you are alert and intelligent enough to know, to see it. Now, all that I did was chanting his name and keeping the focus alive. It's true that day in 1990 when Bhagwan left Kripa, leaving me behind and taking everyone else with him back to Sanadi Street House, saying that you have to go back immediately. I sat and cried so much, and everything looked so hopeless. But 3 years later, he had me sit next to him all the time. So you see how life changes. If you persist, unmindful of the vicissitudes of sadhana, of spiritual life. So there will be moments when you feel utterly hopeless. And there will be no help at all from any direction. And you feel very bitter about being let down by the divine. And you think that's the end of it all. But it is when that happens that everything returns. I remember coming across a saying from Pondicherry Mother, it's only when you think that everything is lost that everything returns. So this is life, spiritual life. If we persist with determination and hard work, anything could be achieved. It doesn't mean to say that we achieve everything only by sadhana. Here we have to mind one thing, because even this persistence can happen only if there is grace. So it's grace in the beginning, in the middle, in the end. It's grace all the way through. And why would grace choose one person and not the other is still a mystery. We do not know. And yet, if you have the mind, you can go as far as life permits, as far as the grace permits. So let us not lose heart if we come across those vulnerable moments when we feel utterly helpless and hopeless, because the greatest fortune could be waiting for you within reach. We shall now offer our today's prayer at the lotus feet of Bhagwan with the hope that any prayer that's offered in this powerful shrine will soon be realized. I say soon because it's got to be sooner than later. Such is the power here and the promise of Bhagwan. We beg you, Bhagwan, for that's all we can do, and that we do a million times, for your immediate divine intervention to bring forth a dharmic normalcy to the world in all aspects of life. The way the world is today, there is so much violence everywhere. And there's growing enmity between people and people, countries and countries. The war clouds, and there's already one war is going on with all its atrocities. Not to mention the attack of new diseases and the furies of nature, the violence of nature. Only you the cosmic controller, could do something about it. Why? You can do everything about it. Please bring in harmony, peace, order where there is disorder now, harmony where there is disharmony, and peace, the discipline where there is chaos now. And only you can keep control over the diseases and the violence of nature. We beg you to uproot all the negativities of the human mind which are responsible for today's world. And we also beg you, Bhagavan, again and again, to reach out to those people who have been stranded in different parts of the world, no matter what country they belong to, what language they speak, and what religion they belong to. For some reason or the other, they have to go through suffering after suffering, unable to get help or protection. We beg you, Bhagavan, to reach out to them and do the needful. We also beg you, especially for those unselfish people who have been working hard, serving the other people. Please protect them from unhealthy criticisms and aspersion. We beg you again to promote the economy of India and the growth in varied fields of the activity to reach their heights, and that soon India would become the Vishwaguru, leading the whole world in the path of dharma. Haven't you said so many times India is the Leela Bhumi of the great masters? And we beg you again, pray to you in all earnestness and sincerity and intensity for ceaseless chanting of your name and unbroken remembrance of your teachings and leelas, so that we could imbibe them, digest them, and it would come out in natural actions. We also beg you to bless us to be sattvic instruments in your hands. We don't want to be Rakshasas and Rakshasis. They too are instruments in your hands in the world drama that you put up from eternity to eternity. We beg you again to bless us to run our everyday life as an offering to you and not be caught by the snares of Maya. We seek that ultimate state of bliss and peace, but then we need to be purified, and we take refuge in your powerful Nama and ceaseless chanting of it. And of course, joyful service without any unhealthy competition or jealousy, and that in the spirit of surrender to you. And Bhagavan, please bless us to practice acceptance, which is what is more difficult. Whatever life brings to us, be it a joy or sorrow, coming from you can only be a blessing meant for our spiritual growth. Every suffering pushes us towards God, no matter how reluctant we are. And then, in course of time, it gives us closer kinship with God. As we get more and more purified, we would be able to feel, detect your living, vibrant presence everywhere, in everything. Bhagavan, please enable us to see your sankalpa, your will, behind all the happenings of the world. And more importantly, to be able to detect your hidden grace even in the most devastating experiences of life. When we are suddenly attacked by bad time, meaning some bad karma of the past is beginning to play up, then what happens? People have been very friendly with us until then, very understanding and friendly, would suddenly begin to doubt, suspect, and mistake us, misunderstand us, and then everything would seem to go wrong. Even innocent remarks will be misunderstood deliberately. It's not the people, it is our past karma at work. This is what we would have done to somebody, always putting up very vicious interpretation upon any happening. And all that will be returning to us. And before we move away from Bhagwan, Bhagwan out of his kindness and generosity would have all of us at his feet, would not let us move away and convert all our difficulties into great blessings. Bhagwan, we beg you to bless us to be grateful to you even for the adversities of life. And Bhagwan, we beg you for your blessings for all the species of the cosmos, in whatever state of being, state of misery they are, to be lifted to a higher plane, and finally, eventually, we seek that liberation from the vicious cycle of births and deaths, which means dissolution of the ego, the I and mind that rule our lives always. Please bless us with that eternal living, that immortal life, eternal living and eternal servitude to you, that supreme eternal entity. Jai Yogi Ram Sivat Kumar.